I want to tell you about the strangest thing an old man ever said to me. His name was Ray, 76. I met him in the parking lot of a hardware store, and he had a mustard stain on his shirt. Not a small one either, a real commitment of a stain, front and center, like a medal. And I did that thing you do, that polite glance and look away. And Ray caught it. He looked down at his own chest, looked back up at me, and he said, and I quote, "Nobody's watching, son. There's nobody in the seats." And then he loaded a bag of mulch into his trunk and drove off, and I stood there in a parking lot, having what I can only describe as a small crisis. Because here's what he meant, and once you hear it, you can't unhear it. For most of our lives, we perform. We are on stage. There's a version of us we present to the world, the successful version, the busy version, the one with the nice car and the interesting job and the correct opinions, and we perform that version for an audience. And the thing about that audience is, it doesn't exist. You built a theater. You've been on stage for 40 years, sweating under the lights, hitting your marks, worrying about your reviews, and the seats are empty. They were always empty. Retirees are the people who finally walked down off the stage, turned around, and looked. So today, 10 things they stopped caring about, and every single one of them is a ticket to a show nobody bought. Let's go. 1. Keeping up with the Joneses. Let's start with the oldest scam in America. The Joneses got a new deck. The Joneses just did a kitchen remodel with an island the size of a Honda Civic. The Joneses kid got into a school you can't pronounce. And you feel that little acid drop in your stomach, that wait, am I behind feeling? Here's what nobody tells you. The Joneses are broke. I'm serious. That deck is on a home equity line. That kitchen is a 5-year note. The Joneses are not winning. The Joneses are leveraged. They are one bad quarter away from a very quiet, very tense conversation at their beautiful new island. And retirees know this because they've been around long enough to see how the Joneses story ends. They watched a guy work until 68 to afford a boat and use it 4 times. They watched a couple with a gorgeous house have a truly miserable marriage inside of it. Somewhere around your 60s, you stop looking at the deck and start looking at the man standing on the deck. And half the time, he doesn't look happy. He looks tired. The race was never real. You were sprinting on a treadmill next to a guy on a different treadmill, and both of you were staying exactly where you were. 2. Owning more stuff. Here's a joke the universe plays on you. You spend 30 years buying things, the house, the furniture, the good china, the garage full of tools, half of which you bought for one specific project in 2007. The attic boxes marked MISC, which have never been opened and never will be, and which are at this point essentially a time capsule for whoever cleans out your house after you're gone. And then around 68, all of it starts to feel heavy. I have watched this happen. A man tries to give his daughter the dining room set. Solid oak, cost a small fortune in 1994. And she says, "Oh, no thanks, Dad. We're kind of minimalist right now." And you can watch 30 years of assumptions quietly collapse behind his eyes. Because here's what he just learned. Stuff isn't wealth. Stuff is a job. Every single object you own is asking you for something. Clean me, store me, insure me, move me, explain to your children why they should want me. Retirees downsize, and every one of them says the same sentence afterward. I don't know why we waited so long. And by the way, go use the good china tonight on a random Tuesday with takeout. The number one regret I hear is we were saving it for a special occasion. The occasion never came. It was never going to come. You are the occasion. Eat the pad thai off the wedding plates. 3. Impressing other people. There's a specific kind of exhaustion that comes from performing competence for 8 hours a day. Sending the email at 9:40 p.m. so the timestamp does the bragging for you. Saying, let's circle back on that in a meeting because you have nothing to contribute but you need to be seen contributing. Updating your job title to Strategic Growth Catalyst when what you actually do is make spreadsheets. Retirees are done. Completely done. Ask one what they used to do for a living and watch how fast they change the subject. Oh, I was in insurance. Anyway, have you had these crackers? Costco. Unbelievable. That's it. That's the eulogy for a 30-year career that cost him his back, his weekends, and his son's 5th grade band recital. Anyway, have you had these crackers? And I don't say that to be cruel. I say it because it should terrify you a little. If the thing you're currently sacrificing your Tuesday nights for is the thing you'll be bored mentioning at a barbecue in 15 years, you might want to reprice that sacrifice right now while you can still get the money back. Again, the audience you're impressing? Empty seats, my friend. Empty seats. Number 4, chasing every dollar. Now, careful here, because this is not money doesn't matter. This is a money channel. Money matters enormously. But there's a difference between having enough and chasing every dollar, and retirees find that line the hard way. Here's what chasing every dollar looks like. It's driving 11 minutes to save 4 cents a gallon on gas. It's spending your entire Saturday moving a savings account for an extra 0.15%. It's taking the promotion you don't want in the city you don't like because it's more. And the big one, the expensive one, it's one more year. Just one more year. I'll retire next year. The market's a little shaky. Let's do one more. The bonus vests in 14 months. Let's do one more. Retirees have watched people do one more year 4 times in a row and then get a diagnosis. At some point, you realize your life is not a spreadsheet you're optimizing. It's a spreadsheet you're spending. And every dollar you chase is bought with something that doesn't come back. The wealthiest man I know, in the way that actually counts, turned down a big consulting gig at 67. Somebody asked him why. He said, because I already won and I don't want to keep playing. Number 5, winning every argument. Now, I want to be fair. A certain segment of the retiree population has absolutely not learned this lesson and is currently typing in all caps under a local news station's Facebook post at 6:15 in the morning. But the ones who figured it out, happiest people I know. Because at some point it clicks. Arguing with a stranger is like doing squats with an imaginary barbell. Enormous effort, 0 result, and you look insane doing it. The move they've mastered, and it is the single most underrated skill of the modern era, is this. They see something they violently disagree with, they feel the heat rise in their chest, their thumb hovers, and then they put the phone down and go look at a bird. That's it. That's the whole technique. The bird has no opinion on the election. The bird has no take. The bird is just a bird doing bird things, and it will still be there after the argument you were about to have would have changed absolutely nobody's mind. And it's not just online. It's the family, too. The retiree who has stopped needing to win Thanksgiving is the most powerful person at that table. Everyone else is arguing. He's over there having thirds. 6. Following every trend. Let me describe a man to you. Cargo shorts, 9 pockets. He is actively using 3 of them. New Balance sneakers, the white ones, the ones that were relentlessly mocked for 2 decades and then somehow became cool again. Not that he noticed. He never stopped wearing them. He simply stood still while the culture did a full lap around him and came back to shake his hand. A t-shirt from a 2011 charity 5K that he did not run in. That man is a total piece. And here's what drives younger people crazy. He's not doing it ironically. He's not making a statement. He is not unbothered in the way people say they're unbothered while being extremely bothered. He genuinely, chemically does not care. Because trends require you to care about the opinion of people you will never meet, about a thing that will be embarrassing in 4 years anyway. That's the whole transaction. You rent relevance monthly forever. Retirees canceled the subscription. And it's not just clothes. It's the phone they didn't upgrade, the show everyone's watching that they haven't started and won't, the crypto thing their nephew explained to them twice. Standing still, it turns out, is a strategy, and it's free. 7. Living on other people's schedules. For 40 years, someone else owned your calendar. Meetings you didn't call, deadlines you didn't set, that thing where you sit in the parking lot for 10 extra minutes because you don't want to walk in early and make small talk with Todd from accounting. And then one day, it's over. The regime falls, and the retiree emerges blinking into a world where the only thing on Tuesday is what he decides is on Tuesday. Now, I'll admit the transition is rough for some. There's a 2-week period where they don't know what to do with their hands. They reorganize the garage, they alphabetize spices, they call you at 10 a.m. on a workday to ask if you've heard about a scam that isn't real. But then it settles, and what you get on the other side is a man who says, "I'll be over around noon," and shows up at 2:15 holding a bag of tomatoes from a farm stand he found on the way, with no explanation and no remorse. Here's my favorite detail, though. Most retirees still wake up at 6 a.m., same as before. The difference is that nobody told them to. That's the entire thing right there. It was never about doing less. It was about being the one who decides. 8. Being busy to feel productive. Somewhere in America right now, a man is looking at his calendar, which is completely full, wall to wall, color-coded, and feeling good about himself. He has accomplished nothing, but he is booked. We have confused motion with progress so thoroughly that "have you been" is now answered with "busy," and we all nod like that's an achievement. It's not an achievement, it's a symptom. Retirees break this addiction, and it's genuinely hard, because busyness is a drug and the withdrawal is brutal. The first month of retirement, a lot of guys panic. They fill the day with errands that could have been one errand. They go to the hardware store 4 times, they invent projects, and then something beautiful happens. They sit on the porch, they don't do anything, and they discover that they haven't disappeared. That's the fear underneath all of it, right? If I'm not producing, am I still worth anything? Retirees find out the answer is yes. It takes them about 6 weeks and a very quiet Wednesday afternoon, but they find out. A full calendar is not a full life. Sometimes it's the exact opposite. It's the thing you use to avoid noticing the life you're not living. Number 9, pleasing everyone. At 35, you want everybody to like you. Your boss, your neighbor, your barista, the guy who does your taxes, the woman at the DMV for some reason. At 70, there are maybe 6 people whose opinion actually lands, and if you're not one of the 6, respectfully, you're furniture. Now, I don't mean retirees are rude. Most of them are kinder than the rest of us, but they've pulled apart 2 things that we keep gluing together. Kindness and approval seeking. Those are not the same thing. One is a gift, the other is a tax. Watch a retiree order at a restaurant. "I'll have the salmon, no sauce, and bring the salad first." No apology, no nervous laugh at the end to soften it, no "sorry, I know this is a whole thing." Meanwhile, I have personally eaten an entire meal containing an ingredient I'm allergic to because I didn't want to make a fuss. When that switch flips, you get hours back every week, hours you'd been spending managing other people's feelings about your very normal, very reasonable preferences. Saying no isn't cruelty, it's just accuracy. And here's the last one, the big one, the one everything else hangs on. There's a version of retirement that looks like this. You check your portfolio 3 times a day. You watch the red numbers. You read a headline with the word plunge in it in all caps, written by a 24-year-old, and your blood pressure climbs, and you call your advisor. That's not retirement. That's a job with worse hours and no coworkers. Then there's the other version, and the other version is boring, and boring is the point. They've got a couple of years of spending in cash and short-term stuff, so a bad market can't force them to sell anything at the bottom. They've got a withdrawal plan they actually trust. They own boring index funds they never talk about at parties. And so when the market drops 9% in a week, they look at it and they say, "Huh," and then they go water the tomatoes. That's the flex. Not "I beat the market," not "I called it," just "huh," and then tomatoes. Because a portfolio you can ignore is worth infinitely more than a portfolio that performs, for one simple reason: it's the only kind you'll actually stick with. And that same muscle works on everything else too. The election, the neighbors, what your adult kid decides to do with his life, whether it rains on Saturday. Retirees sort the world into 2 boxes, mine and not mine, and they only carry the first one. So let's go back to Ray, mustard on his shirt, bag of mulch in the trunk. Nobody's watching, son. There's nobody in the seats. I used to think that was sad, a little bleak even, like he was saying nobody cares about you. But that's not what he meant, and it took me a long time to get it. What he meant was you're free. The reviews aren't coming. The judges went home. The theater you've been performing in was built by you, staffed by you, and the audience whose approval you've been buying with your money, your Tuesdays, and your one and only life was never actually there. You don't have to be retired to walk off that stage. That's the part that gets me. Not one thing on this list requires a 401k, a pension, or a certain birthday. You can drop every single one of these today for free. The good china's in the cabinet. Go get it. I'll see you next time.